The United States has doubled down on threats to bomb civilian Iranian infrastructure in a bid to push Iran towards a deal. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says traffic in the Strait of Hormuz is now under US control. He says the US still has a navy, while Iran does not. Hegseth also warned that the US is ready to strike Iran unless talks yield results.
We are reloading with more power than ever before, and better intelligence. Even more importantly, better intelligence than ever before, as you expose yourself with your movement to our watchful eye. We are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy industry. We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president and at the push of a button.
Introducing Rob Geist Pinfold, is a lecturer in international security at King's College London. He joins us from the British capital. Good to see you, Rob. So Pete Hegseth's Pentagon statement was brimming with confidence, I think it's fair to say, bristling with firepower. He kept urging the Iranians to, quote, choose wisely with the options on the table. Why does the US need to continue asserting this locked and loaded mantra if the Iranians have, according to the Pentagon, been decimated?
Well, the short answer is that both sides, both the US and Iran, are engaging in saber rattling because they're trying to demonstrate resolve. They're trying to say that actually they're the ones who've come out on top of this and that they're ready for another round. Now, the irony is that both sides probably don't want another round right now. They're happy for the negotiations and the discussions to go ahead. But all of that bellicose rhetoric, first of all, this is classic Trump administration, particularly Pete Hegseth stuff, but also the clear desire or the intent here is to show Iran that the US is not rattled, that it's ready for another round. And that's where the naval blockade of Iranian ports comes in as well, because the US is basically trying to take Iran's, no pun intended, trump card away from it in terms of opening up the Strait of Hormuz to the rest of the international shipping, whilst at the same time closing it to Iran. So both sides are trying to get leverage, and the US currently feels like the momentum is on its side. It can basically constrain Iran and squeeze it financially and economically, whilst opening up the Strait of Hormuz, which would hopefully, from the US's perspective, lead to a recovery in global energy markets and the global economy, which would allow the US to continue if and when it feels the need to do so.
Rob, we're led to believe that momentum is growing for another round of negotiations in Islamabad. I mean, at the same time, though, just going what you're saying about this ratcheting up of tension and saber rattling, is that the reason why the United States doesn't appear to be drawn on any extension to the ceasefire, which would be pretty critical if they want any diplomatic breakthrough to happen?
Well, again, this is classic Trump administration negotiation, right? Trump tries to play a game of chicken with all of his opponents. We saw, of course, very, very recently, Trump claiming that Iranian civilization was going to die tonight, to quote his exact words from Truth Social, before he actually agreed to a ceasefire. So I think you have to take Trump's and the US administration claims with a pinch of salt, simply because they have shown a willingness to say one thing and then actually do another. So I think at the moment, the best case scenario would be an extension of a ceasefire, unless something very secret and very surprising is being cooked up right now. We are unlikely to see some kind of a game-changing deal before that deadline expires. So the best case scenario right now, or the most likely scenario, if you're an optimist, is an extension of that ceasefire and basically giving time for talks to take place to see if we can actually get to a breakthrough, rather than what the pessimists fear, a return to conflict where this becomes more or less the dominant and recurring paradigm, that this is just another break in between wars with Iran.
Something that wasn't mentioned in the Pentagon is what other world powers looking in are thinking about all of this. General Kane focused on, quote, owning the skies. But how does Iran's reported use of Chinese reconnaissance satellites to track, for instance, the USS Abraham Lincoln, how does it undermine the Pentagon's claim of total domain dominance?
Right, there's the use of Chinese satellites. There's also the use of Russian intelligence, which has been alleged when it comes to Iran's targeting of the GCC states to work out where US military personnel might be located. So this is a conflict with very, very global implications. But what I should stress here is basically to warn against this perception that there's some sort of new axis of evil that's Russia, China, and Iran. In short, Iran wishes it was on the same level as those states, and it wishes it had as much leverage with them as they do with it. Yes, Russia and China have been dipping in terms of assisting Iran, giving it some sort of some sort of advantage, or at least mitigating its disadvantages, but they have not been willing to throw themselves into this conflict. Remember that countries like China have extremely complicated relations in the Middle East. They're very, very close to the Gulf states economically, as they are close to Iran as well. So I think there's little desire or threat so far of this turning into World War III, as some doom mongers have warned or in the past. Basically, this is a conflict between the US and Israel. It is and Iran. It is drawn in other countries like the Gulf states, but so far this does not have any sort of significant geopolitical reverberations that would see us on the path to, for example, World War III or anything scary like that.
All right, Rob, I'm happy to take you on that last point. I'm sure our viewers will be as well, enjoying your optimism, at least when it comes to the prospects of a worldwide conflagration. Rob Geist Pinfold, lecturer in international security at King's College London, many thanks.